Hey, hello everyone.
Hello, welcome to Live at Epiphan. It's Thursday at 3 o'clock Eastern, and we're here to talk about something interesting.
We are talking about doing Alpha channel over NDI.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a minor miracle. We're all here today. I'm not sure if you're aware, but around the Epiphan offices there is quite a bit of snow coming down. But
Yeah, it's a little empty around here today.
yeah.
But
that just
we
means,
made it in.
Yeah, and that just means we'll have to have twice the fun or more fun, or
We're
I don't
the
know how
winners.
that'll work.
We're
But
the winners or the losers. I'm not sure which. But for those who are looking at simplifying and having a high quality kind of addition to your production, and in a way seeing a little bit as behind the curtain on what we do for this show, that's today's show. I'm talking about NDI and Alpha. So I think it's going to be interesting for anyone who's looking to enhance their live production a little bit and kind of add some new tools that might be beneficial to what they're creating.
you're seeing this kind of functionality added to all sorts of live streams, everything from like your most amateur streamer, all the way up to universities who are perhaps streaming the commencement or streaming some of their athletics games. They're using NDI Alpha channel to really add some graphics, to really add some punch, add a finished quality to that. So.
Exactly. And today we're specifically talking about using NewBlue, which is what we use, and we've been doing various things with NewBlue for years now. We're specifically talking about NewBlue, which has now done NDI over Alpha. We've also done it with some other things that we'll get to in some of the things we have prepared to share with you. We use Titler Live for all of the titles you see flashing up on the screen at various times when we bring in comments from you guys.
The lower thirds, the names, the
exactly.
even
like, here's Danny complaining about the temperature in Texas, and trust me, I would kill for that right now as long as there was no snow.
I don't know what that is in Celsius. I don't.
It's below freezing, but
cold.
still.
It's important.
So yeah, it's. Yeah, and we'll get to some of these other questions. Danny, I see your question there about Pearl 2 versus Pearl Mini. We'll get to that at the end because we are going to touch on how exactly we do this from a Pearl perspective. So let's talk a little bit about NewBlue, which I don't play with myself much.
We use it for titling for the show, obviously, and we use their titler software for the show, as I just said. But earlier this week, we got a chance to sit down and have a video chat with Sean Willmon, who's a product specialist at NewBlue. And let's just cue up the interview right now so he can tell us a bit about, what NewBlue does.
Yeah.
What NewBlue provides to customers is basically solutions for problems that are posed to video professionals. So editors and broadcasters. For example, when you are doing a broadcast, playing in and out your graphics usually has to be done with an outside program, but with Titler Live, you are streamlining the entire process into a single source, a single plugin that has all of your animations, sounds, and lengths and channels and everything you need just all in one place.
So he was just telling us a bit about how NewBlue is essentially, they're in the business of providing solutions for AV, and Titler is really sort of a perfect example of that, because in the past, adding lower thirds could be quite a complicated process.
It can be.
And was limited largely to, mostly broadcast productions. But with the advent of technology like NewBlue's Titler, like Alpha channel over NDI, you can see this kind of tech, as I said, deployed in all sorts of situations and a lot of streaming situations as well. As we said, it helps make productions just look a lot more polished, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's and again, it used to be very complex to do some of these things. You used to have a lot of expensive gear, and you probably know that all too well. You're literally dealing with a broadcast control room of mess of stuff with 3 different people running all these different things and massive switchboards just to get some basic lower thirds. And now with things like NewBlue Titler, it's we're running it off of a old MacBook Pro sitting beside Michael in our little control booth, and he can just click on some really simple things or do some hotkeys, and it's just that's it. It's very easy.
It's a massive change because, of course, in the past you'd have one technician running just the Titler machine, one technician just to do the switching, and then a director usually overseeing them to make sure everything was going smoothly. And you can just streamline that down to one person now because of companies like NewBlue and who have helped bring this technology really to the masses. There's a lot of value to using NDI for alpha channel as opposed to sort of the more conventional way of doing things, because you still do see some older production companies, especially in like TV broadcast, who are maybe they have legacy equipment and they're not ready to make the leap, or maybe they're just not certain about how they'll integrate these things into their new workflow. But it's not just a matter of things being streamlined or simpler. You get a lot more options because of course we've got the green screen in our studio. It's not deployed right now, of course, but
And we used to do it with Chroma, with keying out things and playing around with it. And once we added alpha channel compatibility to the Pearl 2, it was obvious we needed to go that route. And so we asked Sean to try and talk about some of those things, the traditional versus what we can do now.
Right, and we'll just cue up that interview with Sean right now and hear what he has to say about that.
The value of NDI for titling and the challenges that it solves is that basically you are no longer limited to a specific color palette. In the past, you have used chroma key to create the transparency layer. So you would have either green, blue, or black being transmitted, probably via HDMI to your output, and then you would have to chroma key that green, blue, or black yourself. Which of course means you can't use, depending on which one you're doing, green, blue, or black in your title design. So the value that NDI Alpha brings is that you are now able to just have a full range of colors in your titles, in your lower thirds, in your bugs, in your main titles, without having to worry about leaving a specific color off the table for the purposes of chroma keying.
So of course Sean made some excellent points talking just about, with conventional chroma keying in the past, like it would actually
sloppy.
and it would actually limit the color palette that you could use in some instances.
Well, for us, the funniest thing is that Epiphan's corporate green is so close to chroma key green that it literally meant no one could wear or use corporate colors in any of our content when we were doing it with chroma keying. It just wasn't possible, which is crazy. But again, as Sean was mentioning there and showing some of those examples, blue, black, and again, green, blue, and black. Like, how are you going to create a production? And if you've got to choose one, but none of them are going to be a winner.
If you're trying to lay some logo in, and exactly like they were showing, if it's using a rainbow or just a range of colors, you're really limited. And that's not a place you ever want to be in terms of production, right?
And never mind, fine-tuning chroma is there's an art to it. The edge blends and all these other things, making sure it looks clean and not jaggedy and rough. There's a lot to it, and you almost need another whole professional team to do just that. And so again, now that we have these other abilities to, NDI, we've talked about on other shows, that gives us this great ability to interconnect things simple and easy over existing networks even. And then Alpha just kind of brings that up.
And just the number of companies that have taken up NDI, it was released in 2017, 2015 or so?
It's been around for quite a while now.
Quite a while, but right off the hop, a lot of companies ended up jumping on board. And I remember I was working in a broadcast television station back in 2017, and at that time they were talking about, well, this new switcher that we're getting, it has to be able to do NDI because we're gonna be controlling stuff with this. So it's very obvious that this is sort of the way to go. And as we move into the future, I think we'll see a lot more applications of this kind of thing. We talked to Sean about this as well, about where he and NewBlue sort of see where NDI Alpha Channel is going. So I'm just going to cue that interview up as well and just see what Sean has to say.
The future of NDI Alpha, to me, looks like it represents sort of a shift in how everyone operates to making things more consumer-centric. I think a lot of standards are starting to coalesce in a way that is less about adhering to the old methods of doing things and more about finding new, efficient, better ways of doing things. So in this case, working with consumers to give them an alpha channel directly through their network is, you know, much more efficient than any of the old ways of doing things.
So those are some excellent points that he raised up right there, and
Yeah.
I mean, it really plays into what we talk about a lot here at Epiphan, which is really sort of the democratization of video.
Exactly. Yeah, and that was, you know, listening to that interview with Sean, that was one of the first things that really hit me, is that how in line with some of the things that you know, we're trying to accomplish as a company that is, in the sense that bringing the ease of use and the power of what used to be, in the traditional sense, extremely complex and extremely expensive, both in cost and in, you know, human power to get it done. You know, now with these right tools, cost is way down and the ease of doing it is way up. And NDI Alpha with titling software makes that even better, because we can interlink all these other things. We could have NDI cameras and Titler throwing us alpha stuff to do our titling, and then whatever we want to do with that. And that's a really, really big piece. And so, yeah, it's, and again, like you said, you know, NDI is still fairly new, although it's really shown itself to be a great tool, and that's only going to grow. You know, we're a month and a half from NAB, and, you know, that's basically the biggest broadcast show in North America. There's going to be a whole ton of NDI-based stuff at that show, and it's going to be really interesting to see it, because there'll be something new.
Absolutely. And sort of speaking of NDI integration, things that can interact with NDI, of course, the Pearl 2 can do alpha channel NDI. And as we talked about a bit earlier in the show, that's how we do our titling for this show. We're going to maybe
we'll take a look at it.
Let's
I'll
peel
address,
the curtain back a bit.
I'll address Danny's question first, where he was asking earlier, you know, is Alpha Pearl 2 only or Pearl Mini also? NDI is Pearl 2 only, and it does support alpha channel over NDI for that. Pearl Mini currently does not support NDI. We're hoping in the future, as the efficiency gets better with newer versions of NDI, that we might be able to add it, but I can't say for sure at the moment, because it's really not up to us. It's kind of up to NewTek to a degree, but we are actually working with them to try to get there. So.
Now, you saw it on the screen just a second ago, and if we could switch back to that, Michael, this is the exact titler system that we use for the live show. It's dead simple, simpler even than Creative Suite, which is essentially where I live when I end up cutting videos, but it's absolutely super simple. We've got an Elgato Stream Deck hooked up to it, and as you can see there, that's how we do our titles for the show.
And again, the simplicity of NewBlue in terms of building your titles and just the interface is very, very simple. I mean, it may look a little complex on the screen there, but it's actually very, very simple and pretty intuitive. And then, as you mentioned, pairing the Stream Deck with the MacBook that's running it means we can hotkey everything. And so Michael sitting in our booth is just, you know, and Stream Decks are so cheap, which is why all the Twitch game streamers use them for changing their own layouts within OBS even. It's a very multifunction, inexpensive, you know, key where you don't have this big broadcast console anymore.
But you get the same quality results.
Exactly.
It really does end up making things look a lot more professional. So let's take them behind the curtain a bit. Hey, George?
So you saw NewBlue there. The other part of this, of course, is we always use our Pearl 2 for running this stream. And what we're doing is we're bringing in that NDI feed from NewBlue, and of course it has alpha channel. And we want to just cover three main points that we recommend as the best practices, if you will, for how to do this. So for you Pearl 2 users out there, you've probably already looked at how to add an RTSP or an NDI input. So I'm not going to cover that part. But once we have an NDI input added, there's a few settings that we generally recommend that you work with. When we're looking at NewBlue specifically, we want to check this little box called Ignore Timecode. Otherwise, the stream from that NDI source can essentially go to sleep. It's a weird little thing. So it's, you know, making sure that if we're bringing in a source from software like NewBlue, we want to check that. If it's a camera, we probably don't want to ignore time codes, if we're trying to keep it anywhere close to in sync with other video inputs. So there's some pros and cons to that, but with software, we usually want to ignore it. The other thing we do is, just in case that stream disconnected, or just in case we forgot to check that box, Cameron, we want to use one of the actually lesser known but extremely powerful features that the Pearl has for all video inputs, and that is using a custom no signal picture. So by default, the Pearl's no signal picture is a really boring black and gray thing that just says no signal, right? It's kind of terrible. What we figured out as a really good practice is if we upload essentially a blank, transparent PNG image. So essentially it's just an empty frame. There's nothing there.
And that's what that looks like right now, right?
It's a representation of it in the sense that there's nothing there.
Yeah.
Which means if this got disconnected, or NewBlue wasn't running, or something happened, it won't impact the content we're creating.
Right.
We won't get this flash up of no signal like someone unplugged something.
Right.
Because the placeholder for that is invisible.
Right.
So that's a good practice. Honestly, for any video input on a Pearl, you could do that. Some people choose to upload their own images, with technical difficulties and branding and all kinds of things. But it can be a very powerful tool for your creation and how you do things anyways.
Only come up when you really need it to come up, which is to say when something has no signal.
Exactly. Yeah. Now, because we're also using Alpha channel, it also means that basically this NDI input is set as a second video input to our main encoding channel. It's overlaid over the whole thing, and it's invisible until we happen to trigger, one of your comments or one of our titles. So if we want to bring up, what George was saying earlier and complimenting you, we can do that. And you can see that in that preview window, it then filled in that piece.
Yeah.
Even in that empty snapshot preview.
Yeah, it shows exactly what's coming in through NDI. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's it. It's really easy. It's really simple. You're basically looking at the steps of using the right software, in this case, NewBlue that supports NDI with Alpha, bringing that into your content creation suite. In our case, that's the Pearl 2. And, you don't have to worry about all the keying stuff.
Yeah.
We used to do it that way. And every week we did this show, something was messed up with the key. People are yelling at me about wardrobe for something that's, disappearing.
Yeah, you've got to check one sliver of green or something. Yeah.
Exactly. So it was always a struggle to make sure it was clean. This has made it so much easier. And it also has the added bonus that chroma keying, Pearl 2 can do chroma keying, and it does it very well. But it takes a lot of horsepower to do chroma keying,
right,
which is why traditionally it's so expensive. This means we're reducing the system load on Pearl 2 because we're not doing the chroma keying anymore. So overall, Pearl runs better, which means we can do more with it.
Right.
We don't have to mess around with playing with the config every week. It just works. And we can spend more time being creative with our titles if we want.
Absolutely. So I think that about wraps it up for us talking
pretty much covers
a bit
it.
about NDI. If you've got any questions, hit us in the comments below. We always love to hear from our loyal viewers and hear a bit about what you guys are up to or what you guys want to know. Next week we are talking about live event production and
we are.
What happens if you are working with less than ideal circumstances.
Yeah.
So that should be a bit fun.
Yeah, I'm actually looking forward to that one. It should be interesting.
Absolutely.
And of course, I think if it's not up on the website yet, it will be. It's definitely in our email signatures. As I mentioned earlier, NAB is only a month and a half away. So we'll be there unless something stops all airlines from traveling to Las Vegas.
Oh, we were not talking about that.
So we have a booth there. We're in the South Upper Hall. I don't remember the booth number, but obviously you can look us up pretty easily. We'll have lots of promotion out there.
Yep.
So if anyone is thinking about jumping over to Vegas and checking out NAB, we'll be there. Stop by, say hi. We'd love to see you. And, we can talk a little bit more about NDI and NewBlue and everything else in the wide world of live streaming.
Fun stuff you can do with Pearl 2 and Pearl Mini.
Yeah. This is a question just for you. Just for you.
When am I growing a beard? This is actually me on about 7 days of no shaving. I can't grow a beard. So it's beard diversity.
Yes.
That's what that is.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyway, thank you all for joining us, and hope you learned something.
We'll see you next week. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, and do all those socially things. And leave us a comment of just even saying hi.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.